With Australian Golf Media, you're back inside the ropes.
Welcome back to Inside the Ropes, and I don't think a week passes on this podcast where we don't talk about female participation in golf. Whichever way you look at it, this is either the biggest problem in golf or it's the biggest challenge for golf, and it has to have the biggest potential upside if the game can actually get this right. That's my take on it anyway. I think there's huge potential in that area because we haven't looked closely enough at this in the past. So on that note, I just wanted to bring in Bonnie Boezeman to talk to us. There's a significant announcement planned for tomorrow by the Australian Golf Foundation, of which Bonnie is a director and also the founder of this particular project. So the AGF Junior Girls Scholarship Program for 2022 has been expanded. It's right around the country now, and the numbers are increasing hugely. So welcome, Bonnie, and tell us a little bit about these scholarships. I'm told that they're for girls mostly above 10. They'll bend the rules a little if they need to with a younger player, but mostly they're above 10. And they're girls who have some skill. They're not real. It's not really a beginner's thing, is it?
No, it isn't. Not at all. And it actually, I'll go from the origins. Back in 2018, I went to the general manager of Kalara Golf Club because I used to ask him every year, why don't we have junior girls programs and any form of junior girls programs? And they basically said, well, we really can't find enough girls. And we do bring a couple of girls, cadets from Ravenswood. But I said, the club was 119 years old. And I just said, do you know, the average age of the female golfer today is 63. And it actually is a dying game for women, sadly, because of overall, all the golfers, 20% are women and 80% are men. But the problem is it's sliding. And so my focus wasn't to go out and to, have a scholarship that we would create just for pros. It was actually to give young girls the opportunity to learn the sport and to have that skill in their kit bag. And in every induction, every year, I basically say to the girls, if after university you go out and you're working and you have equal pay with someone sitting next to you, but they go out and do a deal on a golf course and you don't because you've never had the opportunity to learn, you're going to be at a major disadvantage. And I reflect that back on myself. I was a big sports junkie my whole life and didn't pick up golf until I was 39. So I kept on seeing everybody doing deals on the golf course. And I'm thinking, well, I love sport. I always thought golf was for lazy people. And then I basically changed my mind. So I offered to the club because I was frustrated. I said, all right, I'll put a stake in the ground and I will pay for 5 girls memberships, 32 weeks of professional training, a induction program, and a barbecue graduation at the end with the parents. And actually also help the girls along the way, playing in comps, helping them get their LinkedIn membership numbers and so forth. So 3 years later, 15 girls later, it's been an extraordinary success. We've already got 2 girls in that 15 that look like very seriously they'll become professional golfers. And wow. One young girl is only 8 now, and I met her when she was 6. She's won every Jack Newton in her age bracket for the last 12 months, every competition until COVID stopped them. So here we are where the program is very successful. And it was a mere coincidence that Steve Spargo, the chairman of this brand new Australian Golf Foundation back in 2019, we met up because he was looking for directors and people kept on referring me to him. And then I asked him to come to Kalara and I showed them the program. And I said, I'd be very keen to become a director and I'd be very keen to focus my energy on doing something about the plight of women in golf. So he thought it was a great idea. I joined the board nearly 2 years ago, about 18, 20 months ago, and I wrote this massive proposal and I based it on the intellectual property of what I had created. The kit that we send to the schools, we do it every year to about 11 schools around the area of the golf club. And so I basically said, we can roll this out nationally. And all we need to do is create an exact formula, but not 32 weeks because it would be too expensive for golf clubs. So my proposal was that if we raised enough money, $80,000 in 2020, to give to 40 clubs $2,000, And we say to the clubs, this money is expressly for professional golf training, for 24 weeks of pro training in a year. And then Golf Australia, we were going to ask the clubs to pay for a shirt and cap, which is the girls call it their uniform. They love it. And they also love saying, I'm a scholarship winner, because it's, to them, it's, very, very big. I mean, you're talking about a 10-year-old, 11-year-old talking about having a scholarship. And I mean, the excitement of these young girls is quite extraordinary. So we launched it last year. And this is the first year of the international program, as the national program. We have 37 golf clubs. We have 226 young girls across the country. For instance, my excitement to see that Gove, that, as you know, up in the Northern Territory, they have a lovely small 9-hole golf course, that they have 6 girls and a professional trainer up there, as far north as Gove, as far south as Tasmania. We have girls in every state, and it is extraordinary. The surveys we're getting out of these young girls and the pros and the clubs are raving about this. David Galicia, who I work with, said he's never seen, nor have I, from Golf Australia, he's never seen, nor have I, a response to surveys about any programs that is 80 and 90% either good or brilliant. So we hit a nerve. We're trying to solve a problem. You'd think it's kind of inchworm, but if we don't start where we are now, we're never going to actually really make a dent, because there's no feeder groups of young girls coming up through the ranks across the country. And I'm finding that, not only Kalara didn't support young girls, the majority of the clubs I could see didn't have really sophisticated young girls programs across Australia. So what we've done this year is we said, all right, let's double our we originally wanted 200 girls. We said, let's double it to 400 girls in 2022. And then, of course, we had to double the fundraising. And much to our excitement, this is one of the first projects ever that every single state across the country has supported it financially and in other ways. And that we have the Golf Managers Association supporting it financially, the WPGA and the PGA. It's
not bad for a little project that started at one particular club. You must feel very proud. So 400 scholarships in 2022. Applications open on 15th September, which is, a couple of days away as we record this. Yep. Yeah. They close on the 25th of October, so get in early. If you want details of this, it's at australiangolffoundation.org.au, australiangolffoundation.org.au. Bonnie, what happens to those girls those young girls who either take an interest in golf or eventually lose it, or why are they not, coming to golf early? Why is golf not cool for young girls, would you say?
It's in a lot of schools, it's not on the curriculum. And so what girls get seduced with is netball and ballet, and now AFL is competing, and soccer. And I found that when I went around to different schools, going to sports teachers and finding out that it's not on the curriculum, but the teachers, once you engage them, are really happy to go out with the girls in physical ed and basically say, gee, there's a scholarship. And if you've been swinging a club with your father, say on summer holiday, and know how to hit a golf ball, this is right for you. You can't be a beginner, but we don't need you to be a full-blown 7 handicapper, coming into the scholarship, because it really is suited for girls between 10 and 16. But as I said in the rules and regulations, basically, I came across a girl at 6 who she picked up golf at 5. Her parents took her to the U.S. Kids Worldwide Championship in United States and in Pinehurst, and she came in 13th in the world X in her age group. So I basically tripped over this young girl, and now she's gone from a 37 handicap down to 17. So she's better at 8. She's better than. But this isn't the only story I'm coming across. Some of the pros across the country, we have Zoom meetings when we first launched every 3 weeks, so we could actually help the pros and the GMs and the ladies committees really understand how important it is not just to have the girls have a 1-year scholarship. They can go out and play golf with a full membership. So the clubs have to agree as part of the program, they give a full membership. Why? You can't actually expect young girls to stand at a driving range, hit some balls, and then not be able to play the course, go back home. And what are they going to do? They're going to go back to netball, or they're going to go back to soccer. But if you provide them a 1-year scholarship and a membership at a club, they're going to actually take their hour lesson and turn around with a couple of the other girls and say, let's go out and play 4 or 5 holes after school. So that is what's happening across the country. The real question, and you've touched on it, is what happens after a year? And that's the most important critical time where we say, that's it. We say to the clubs, you must embrace the girls. And Kalara, both male and female members have. And you must embrace the girls, encourage them to play as much competitive golf. And some of these girls become friends for life because they've been in something for a year, 24 weeks. They're going and seeing each other, and they're learning together how to really hit a golf ball beautifully, how to chip, how to putt, how to get out of bunkers. And now this is transformative. The feedback we're getting is 80% of those 226 girls this year want to stay on with golf. This is really, truly transformative.
Bonnie, I always ask, most weeks on this podcast, we do a thing with the Visionary of the Year, which relates to Vision 2025. But they're golf clubs and facilities who are doing great work in promoting the game to women and girls. I always like to ask people on the ground whether you feel a bit of a change of momentum yet.
I do, but it's a long way. To give you an example, I spent a lot of when I first picked up golf, it was over 30 years ago. And then I offered within 3 years, I was a CEO of a subsidiary U.S. company, and I offered my services for free, pro bono, to the then CEO of the LPGA. It was a guy, and his name was Don Johnson. And I basically said, listen, all we have is 2 tournaments in this country for women. This is like 1990, 91. I said, we've got to do something about getting more sponsors to have maybe Eastern Seaboard's tournaments, to maybe have more representation. We didn't even have a New South Wales Open then. So I set upon myself to actually go out and try to find sponsors through my networks as a chief executive. And we had about 50 or 55 women, Australian pros, competing in the US, Europe, and Asia. And we were doing very, very well. And from that was the birth of Kari Webb and a lot of other really good golfers. Today, if you speak to Karen Lon, we have only about 18 women competing abroad in those 3 sections of the world. And so what has happened is clearly without the young girls being fed up through the lines, with a lack of attention to them, it's going to affect finding girls to become pros. Now, it's going to happen naturally from the scholarship. As we progress, I said to Karen, if we have 1,000 girls in 3 years, I said, for sure, you'll probably get about 40 pros in the next 5 years knocking on your door. That's kind of the transition percentage of 1,000 girls. So I think we've got to be patient. We have to get sponsors. Like I found a sponsor called NextGen for 2022. And the reason why they're doing it is because they see that, and they're golfers at NextGen, and they basically see that there's this enormous gap for young girls to really make a difference in golf in the future. And we don't want to see the game dying for women.
No, I mean, look at the upside that is there. I mentioned this earlier, but if the game in Australia can actually get this right, which clearly we haven't in the past, but if we can get this right, how crucial, how important would that be for golf?
Oh, it's
be a
turning point. One of the things that I chatted to some of the general managers about in the general managers conference is that women spend money. So if you look at your golf club and you look at where your revenue is coming in from, and you gradually eliminate the women playing golf and playing their bridge inside the club and having their glass of white wine and the lunch, because most of the women love to stay after and have lunch, and the retail that the ladies buy in the pro shops, and the new clubs that their husbands and themselves buy, and so forth. If you look at just the female spend in a club, if that dribbles down to zero, the clubs are not going to get as much of a return for just the male golfers.
And don't you think it's better for the game? The game looks better if it treats women properly and girls anyway.
It does.
It's just a better look all round.
Yeah.
It's the right thing to do.
It is. Plus, we want the men in the clubs to really embrace the young girls as well. I'm not worried about it because the 3 years experience I've had now at Kalara is we now got 12 paying girls on the roster where we had 0. Never had girls, very rarely a young girl playing. And so therefore, the men have embraced these young girls, never seeing young girls around the course before at Kalara. They've come across 2 fairways on a Sunday, and I'd be playing comp with 3 of these girls. And they'd say to me, this is wonderful. It's wonderful to see young girls walking and playing the golf course. And what my fear is that due to COVID and everybody fighting for a spot on the golf course, my fear is that they basically would prefer not to see the juniors playing because it might take a slot away. But we've got to be patient. I think when we get back to 4s again in New South Wales instead of 2s, I think we're going to see that loosening up.
Are they hitting it past you, Bonnie?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I had 2 12-year-olds.
I'm sure you'll accept that, given that it's,
completely
your passion.
It delights me to see the ball flying over my ball on the fairway.
Well, Bonnie Boezeman, it's a great project. It's the Australian Junior Girls Scholarship Program run by the Australian Golf Foundation. As I mentioned earlier, australiangolffoundation.org.au will have all the details, but it's basically a scholarship program for girls in the 10 to 16 age group. They get $2,000 worth of tuition from a PGA professional. They'll be a member of a club for that period of time, and they're really brought through, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Thank you, Bonnie, for joining us on Inside the Ropes. We'll be back with a little bit more, wrapping up in just a moment.